It is Saturday, 7th of February, 2026. Um, my name is Ismail Kiosco, and how do we say your name?
Sandra O'Malley.
Great. And you are where are you at the moment?
Sligo, northwest of Ireland.
And you're in the headquarters of you're in the factory, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's the theatre company I have been working for quite a long time. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sat in Lincoln, in
Yes.
the UK, and we're conducting this interview online. And this is for uh, the checkpoint project for Border Crossings Theatre. Um, Great. So yeah, tell us about you. How did you? What was your journey through to uh, I guess to be at Blue Raincoat? Yeah.
Well, I suppose maybe I didn't study hard enough in school and ended up in theatre. No, I jest. Story with me, I had gone to Australia after I left school, and then got the travelling bug. So came back to Ireland after travelling around the US and with the intention of going to next to Africa and got a job in Sligo as a waitress. I was the young age of 21 and I met the guys from the theatre company. They came into the restaurant for a pizza. So that was kind of my first introduction to Blue Raincoat. The company was only a year old at that point, slightly less than a year old. So I started doing a little bit of production work on the side, and then I did a workshop with a woman called Corinne Soom, whom Niall Henry, the artistic director and founder of Blue Raincoat, he had studied under her tuition in Paris in the Marceau School, and he brought her over to Sligo to do a workshop, and there was just something that uh, hit me in the tummy in my center, and I woke up one morning after that, and I said to the director, I said, I think I want to be an actor, and he said, well, you can't be an actor unless you go off and train. And Corinne Sumit said to me while I did the 3 or 5 day workshop with her, she said, Sandra, you are like a swan with broken wings. But on the back of that, I packed my case. They had moved their school. I called the Mime Corporel Dramatique from Paris to London that year. So I packed my little case. I still had to go through, do a little audition, and because I wasn't trained in movement or anything like that, I decided to read a page from Catcher in the Rye, Salinger, and my hands were so sweaty that when I went to turn the page just stuck to my thumb. So it was a disaster. But anyways, I got into the school, and I didn't make it to Africa. My plan was then to come back to Blue Raincoat. So I trained 94 to 97, and I've been with Blue Raincoat since then because I knew speaking theatre, obviously with the technique of corporal mime and that training, you know, behind it. So it was an amazing training for an actor. It's almost like learning an instrument, except your body is your instrument. And so yes, that's kind of my story, Mal.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
There is a question that I have to ask, and I do apologize. But I meant to ask, what year were you born in, and where were you born?
So I was born in 1970,
Hmm.
uh, in a place called Castlebar, County Mayo. but I'm from so up until the age of 8, I lived in a place called Kilmena between Westport and Newport in the extreme west of Ireland, and then at 8 we moved to Westport. So yeah, Mayo.
Yeah.
Yeah, extreme
Thank you.
west. West is the best. Yeah, that's
From
my base. That's my.
great. So, so you've been with Blue Raincoat since sort of '97 or the early 2000s. Is that right?
Yeah, 97.
'97. Okay, great. Um,
So I
how
had met the, as I said, I had met the company in 1991. So in actual fact, we're kind of going into a 35-year sort of cycle at this point, and we're all still talking, which is a miracle.
amazing. Yeah, it's a long-standing relationship. This
Yeah.
is great. The um, how did how did border crossings like arrive at Blue Raincoat? Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, so I wasn't directly involved in that process, but our I believe it came through. So our designer is a guy called Jamie Vartan. He's based in London. He knew of Michael Walling, or they knew each other, I believe. So because of Brexit, in order for border crossings to receive European funding, they needed a little leg of a company in Ireland. So that's where Blue Raincoat came into it. Niall Henry is on their board of directors, I believe. So the two boys had a chat, and thankfully that worked out. So then I met Michael. I don't know whether it was like, well, we did a favor for you, now you do a favor for us. And so I think there was a bit of pull involved in me being scooted in the border crossings door, of which I'm delighted about, whether it be a happy accident or not. So that was kind of how that came about, and Michael and I clicked from day one, and it's
Right.
been super.
The yeah, what was your first meeting with Michael like? Do you remember that?
He did come to Sligo. I remember him stepping into the room into rehearsal of, can't completely remember which show. I believe it was Thaddeus K, the school days of Thaddeus K. So I would have met him then all those years ago, which would have been probably 2020. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not great on dates. And then because I was sort of invited to join the CRE-ACTORS project, I'm sure I must have had a Zoom with him. And then ultimately our first workshop was Paris 2021. So I had a longer opportunity to get to know him, etc. And then onward and upward from there.
Uh, what was the yeah, what was the brief for the Creators project? Sort of pre France 2021. Do you remember the lead up to it at all?
Uh, like I remember the kind of rough outline, if you like. Essentially, uh, that the first workshop was going to be led by Théâtre du Soleil. So we would sort of go into um, a workshop situation based on one of their ideas, and the whole process would be uh, led by them in the way in which they sort of work with Ariane, etc., and how they kind of, develop some of their own work. So that was their kind of methodology, if you like. Then I knew that we were, go to Bologna, and Teatro dell'Argine would lead it in their particular style, for use of a better word. And then Michael, in his techniques and methods, led in Dublin. So they were kind of the first three.
How did you find the um, yeah, encountering those different styles?
very interesting, to be honest. Quite some of them quite different ways to the way in which I would have worked, if you like. But I think the main thing that intrigued me and interested me was um, working with people from totally different nationalities, having the difficulty of language barriers, um, and things like that. So really, it became something that was constantly evolving, constantly being developed. There was, and yes, working, different methods of improv or ways in which to compose, which would have been sort of quite different to the training that I had, in a sense. Common, we have certainly stuff in common as well, and needless to say, all with a huge passion for theatre. Um, so yeah, fantastic. The idea of uh, very different cultures from all over the world, very different languages, very different disciplines, in a sense,
Yeah.
and then sort of, how over time and over these past few years, now that we're kind of a set group, because the original creators group, certain people that were involved with that, um, are no longer part, if you like, of the Europa project. But there's certainly still a number of us that are the same. So we've got to know each other better and better ways of working together and um, understanding each other uh, and being patient in terms of in languages having to be interpreted, in during the process of creating as well. So yes, it's been a great learning curve, you know, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you've talked about a lot about language barriers and how things were being constantly developed.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any stories about maybe a breaking down of a barrier, um, or perhaps that wasn't possible. Perhaps certain barriers just had to remain in place, and that's just how it was. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think barriers were necessarily at the forefront. I think really the focus was on the creative process, and how we could go about uh, bringing different disciplines together and working as a group, and because uh, border crossings and the creators project, because it's dealing with barriers and different disciplines and all of that was also part of our difficulty, or the process in which we had to work ourselves. So um, it's overcoming those things, and it's and finding new ways in which it becomes cohesive, so that you're not just constantly dealing with difficulty of language or different techniques or da da da,
Mhm.
but rather embracing them.
So what was that? You worked together in uh, July 2021.
Mm.
That was the Théâtre du Soleil
Yeah,
section.
yeah.
Um, what was what was an average day like in that session? Do you remember?
Yes, well, was that was kind of coming off the back of COVID as well, I think.
Yeah.
So people had to be a little bit careful, in a sense. I recall, we had to eat outdoors and we had to kind of serve ourselves. It was an amazing experience going to the cartoucherie. Um, Domi and Vincent, love them. They're pretty amazing at what they do, and they've been doing it for a long time. So their theme that they decided on was an island. Uh, there's a shipwreck. You're swept up on this island, but this island is not uninhabited. So you got to put your creative hat on and do whatever you can to sort of try and you know um, bring ideas to the table and ideas that they could use perhaps further down the line or you know Jonathan Meth, who works with the fence with the dramaturgs and who's part of our team. Every day there would be a sort of a journal done so that nothing really would, that it was recorded and that nothing would be forgotten about. So then how to sort of collate these things and, take the best, take the, how would I put it? Because we knew that we were going to sort of push on with the work and go into, what's currently now our project, we needed to find out what was working and what wasn't working. So all of that was kind of recorded, if you like, all the positives, and once again back to the kind of language barrier, certain things like that, how we could work better. And I think this time around, we're nearly getting faster in a sense because we're sort of getting used to, okay, I speak English, but she doesn't speak English, and he speaks French, but she doesn't speak da 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 da. So, but we're getting better at it as a group, and it's a large group, so it's a lot of people. But yeah, Paris was amazing. Um, Théâtre du Soleil have a very kind of particular way of working, and so there were long days. They were long days, but they had to be sort of long and fairly intense in order to get results at the end, Mal.
Mm.
Yeah, and the results certainly came out of that,
So
as
what
did with other workshops.
so what was a particular day like? So you'd wake up in the morning and I guess
Walked to the cartoucherie from the apartment, which was a lovely walk, and we would do warm up, and you know they'd bring us together as a group. They do quite a playful warm up, and then introduce rhythm and all of that kind of thing, just to kind of get the creative juices flowing as well, and uh, to get started. So then we'd sort of go into whatever themes of improv that they had chosen, and in this case, the shipwreck on the island, they had got us to kind of re-look at the Tempest and the Odyssey, and so you're bringing what you can to it to
mhm.
kind of get results at the end of the day.
Then I guess you'd have lunch. Would you have
And then we would
together
have
have
lunch
tours?
together, which was lovely.
Yeah.
Um, we'd have lunch together, chats together, and yeah, go back into it again. So excellent, great, great experience.
Amazing.
Yeah,
And how did that how like were there any I guess yeah, were there any lessons that you took away from that experience? Was that your first experience? I'm gonna actually scratch that question. Was that was your first traveling experience after the pandemic? Was that
yes,
or yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. That was the first one in which, and even for the what was then the Creators group, because of the pandemic, they would have really only been chatting online. I think so it certainly changed things. So I think for even for here in Blue Raincoat, just to be able to get back into the room with people was like hallelujah. You know, yeah, it's not the same on a screen. You know,
Yes,
so
that's
yeah, yeah, it was an experience for everybody. So yes, I think everybody was happy to sort of get out of the confines of their homes and all of that kind of thing, you know. I was lucky because I had the theatre here. So although we couldn't travel, more than 2 Ks, I travelled 2.5 Ks only, snuck in here, so I kind of tried to stay working and keep my head, busy during that time. In fact, I learned happy days in beautiful sunshine in you know the first 3 months here were just amazing. Blue skies, no aeroplanes, no traffic. So I was in the yard of our performance of the factory, and so I learned happy days under the blue skies with just hearing birdies for 3 months. But we couldn't put it on then, because I think there was a uh, whatever, COVID came back to haunt us or whatever. But eventually it happened.
Mm.
So yeah, it was great to remain working, certainly in my field. Yeah,
Oh, in your yard. Yeah.
yeah, our yard. Yeah, thank God for the yard.
Wow. Okay. So you you went from Beckett and the yard out to the cartoucherie,
Yes.
um, emerging from the pandemic, um, and then there was a break of a few months,
Yeah.
just short of a year,
Yeah.
and then you went out to Bologna.
Correct.
Um, what um, what happened in that interim period before you got out to Bologna? Was there much correspondence, or what was that project like?
So we were Teatro dell'Argine would have sort of given us material to, I think, research in advance of going over to them.
Hmm.
Um, so I think the main people of the four different groups would obviously have stayed in touch, and I would have always stayed in touch with Michael as well. But I was back to kind of Blue Raincoat and that as well, until such a time as the Bologna workshop came up.
Hmm.
I think a year later or something. So yeah, stayed busy.
Did you ever have a sense of, um, you know, taking some of the cartoucherie experience back to your work with Blue Raincoat?
Yes, I suppose in my spirit and my being, but not necessarily. I wouldn't have been teaching the same disciplines. When I teach, I normally teach corporal mime, the technique, and it being an art form in itself. So that kind of suits that sort of training. Perhaps suits the kind of shows that we do if that's what's required. Um, but I would have taken note of the different kind of games or warm ups or ways in which they would go about improving, and that kind of stays with me. But I think in my practice, um, not something I would do on a kind of daily basis because each show requires, different research, different warm ups. Like we've got an actor currently working with us for Ubu, and she happens to be a Pilates teacher, and I'd never done Pilates, so she's kind of got us sweating in the morning, doing a bit of Pilates, and otherwise you got to do your own warm up stuff and vocal and that kind of thing. So it all depends, but I haven't forgotten what I learned from Teatro dell'Argine from Andrea and Mickey or Michael. Michael has his own wonderful ways of leading a workshop, and currently while we're going through with the Europa project, uh, the week we had in Sligo was brilliant, and he covered a lot of ground and a lot of scenes. So well worth it. Well worth it.
Yeah. The Were there any particular games that stuck out for you, either or activities that stuck out for you from the Théâtre du Soleil section or the Teatro dell'Argine section?
With Théâtre du Soleil, uh, what's great about how they go about starting their day, like they almost say that you should think like a child. You know that you should, in order to open up and let ideas come and be open to ideas and all of that kind of thing. So it's a very playful way to start the day, as opposed to I can be sort of heady sometimes,
Mm.
and I'm better off doing 15 push-ups to get myself kicked into gear, um, and Teatro dell'Argine, yeah, they had some beautiful ways in which to compose, you know. So yeah, as I said, they've stayed with me. But in my everyday life, I'm looking forward to going back and working again on the next leg and being directed by them.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's all very positive. There's nothing that I would have thrown out the window in regard to what I've learned and over the last few years from the different facilitators, directors, practitioners.
Amazing. Yeah, great.
Bonus. It's all a
Yeah,
bonus. Yeah.
great, great. So yeah, so you were given some bits of research to do prior to Bologna. Um, yeah, what what was a typical day like in Bologna?
Yeah, the Italians are hard workers. Uh, Warm up, um, bring us together once again as a group, and then various sort of themes for improvisation.
Hmm.
Too many to kind of specify, and I'd have to have my notebook in front of me, which I don't.
Okay.
Um, Very diverse kind of way of working, so it's not just based kind of on one thing. Well, they would have had ideas for, you know, they would have had a number of things on their to-do list, and most of those things would have been achieved either at the end of the day or at the end of the 7 days. So we would work for 7 days straight,
Mm, mm.
so full and colorful and fun and frustrating and colorful. Yeah,
So yeah, so on the first day you got to know each other,
yeah,
and then the second day you explored space and
correct.
power relationships,
Yeah,
um, and the third day was about perhaps individually and collectively sharing who you were,
yeah.
some memories of lockdown on day four, and then some storytelling and sharing on day five. Um,
Thanks for
uh,
reminding me of all that. You've got it all in front of you.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry that I've missed out some of the bits for Théâtre du Soleil, and both sections have this link of the alphabet. Um, do you remember the creation of the alphabet? Was that something that happened collectively, or um, was that something that was added to the publication afterward?
I can't recall.
That's all
Beg,
right.
beg your
Were
pardon.
were there any particular days that kind of stuck out for you?
I think every day brought something new. There was never a dull moment, you
Hmm.
know. Um, you're testing my memory now.
um, what about people? Who was there?
Creative minds from many different countries. So, for example, with border crossings at the time of CRE-ACTORS,
Hmm.
Conley, uh, who's not with the Irish Leg now. He was from Africa, based in Dublin.
Mm.
Then there was another girl who her name escapes me. She's Brazilian,
Hmm.
so she's with this leg. Then there was another girl. She was from Sweden,
Okay.
but living in Ireland. So I was, in fact, the only Irish person, the
How
odd
was
one
that?
out.
How was that for you, being the only Irish person there?
It was absolutely fine.
Okay.
It was absolutely fine. Am I still the only Irish person?
Well, I guess
I
like
believe I am, actually, because uh, we've got a Brazilian, myself, then Shadan was originally from Iran.
hmm,
He's living in Dublin
yeah.
now. And who's our other member? And Michael, obviously.
Well, I
So
guess
yeah, still the only Irish one.
did you ever did you ever get a sense of like what that means to you? Do you yeah, what Irishness is?
Hmm, interesting question. I don't think about it too often. You know, the way you just take it, you don't really question too much. But I suppose when working with so many other people from nationalities that I wouldn't necessarily be, familiar with, like from South America or uh, from India. Another girl in the Italian group, she's originally from Iran. She recently got her Italian passport.
Hmm.
So, and a guy from Morocco, another girl from Chile. Such a mix of people that some of the Europeans, I would say, it's kind of within their culture or sort of within their education uh, to almost be educated in a not a philosophical way, but um, I think certain people would have a different educational system to what I had, Um, so they're masters of improvisation. So so I'm learning from them how to nearly improvise in a more European style as opposed to Sandra O'Malley, an Irish girl, and her version of what an improvisation is. But luckily, I trained under Corinne, who was French, so I got a taste of that early enough. Um, yeah, like I have a nice little role that Michael found for me. I in the Europa project, in which I'm almost like this androgynous. Um, she's the seer, the Pythia. So,
Hmm.
but I'm Irish. Like I'm Irish in a pub, like sort of having a drink, doing this Greek mythology. So it's kind of fun. So as an Irish person, obviously I can bring something that maybe other people have their version of what that is. So
Hmm.
whatever kind of lands, whatever works. And a lot of it could be complete nonsense as well, or useless or not worthy of getting into the final print.
It almost sounds like you're saying that there's a kind of like culture blindness in the casting. There's like gender blindness, and I guess there's like, or yeah, yeah, perhaps we'll come back to that. But we're let's go back to May 2022, in Bologna,
Yes.
and you've um, yeah. Do you have a sense of like how it felt to be there? What was it like, the city of Bologna, or the venue? What venue were you in when you were there?
Uh, Teatro dell'Argine have their own space, and it's a
Mhm.
wonderful space in San Lazzaro. Um, so it was very hot. So luckily they've got this huge circus tent, so we could open up the sides of that and work within that space. So that time we didn't work in the actual theatre inside. Wonderful, wonderful space. We would eat together as well. Have a nice lunch together and talk about everything and anything outside of the work because you need that for your head as well, you know. But there were very full days. There was some beautiful work. Some beautiful work came out of it, and they're excellent. They're excellent directors. So and they know what they're looking for, you know. And
What were they looking for?
I suppose they were looking for um, ideas, uh, stories, ideas, material which could be brought further, which could be further developed, um, and very much as well. I think the bringing together of minds, as creative artists.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Um, the Bologna section finishes, and then the Sligo Manifesto makes is adopted in the gap between Bologna and Dublin. Um, what was did you have much engagement with that process? There's a video online where you are yeah, it's a sort of montage, and I believe you're sat in front of the bookshelf that you're sat
Yes,
in front of now.
yes.
Do you remember that process at all?
Uh, is this the more recent one?
Yeah, there's a video on the Border Crossings website where it's just yeah. It may be that you didn't have much encounter with the Sligo Manifesto, but I just thought I'd ask about it because
So,
chronologically it seemed to happen in there.
uh, the main sort of leaders of each group would have met here in the factory, so I wouldn't have been directly involved in that. But in terms of the workshop that we've just done in relation to the Europa project, um, if that's the one that you're referring to, which I'm not quite
No,
sure.
that's okay.
Yeah.
There was a oh I'm sorry, there was a Dublin uh I'm I'm talking about sorry, apologies. I may have said Sligo where I meant to say Dublin.
Yes.
Um but yeah, between May 22 and July 22,
Yeah. Dublin.
there was the adoption of the Sligo Manifesto, and then you went and then Dublin happened in July 2022. So how was
Okay.
that? So now
Yeah.
you're
Fantastic.
you're on home turf now, as in some ways.
Yeah, and also being led by Michael, as he would have been in the group with me, so to have been sort of led by him was wonderful. He's
Right.
uh, such a creative, uh, wonderful mind. So loved his way of working. So yeah, we had a great week in Dublin at that time. Um, some ludicrous stuff as well, in a good way,
Like
outlandish and fun and stuff that I wouldn't kind of uh, necessarily have experienced within my own within Blue Raincoat.
like
So
what?
I suppose just the way in which he works, or the different ways of improving, and all the different kind of mixes or uh, improvs, as I said, images, music, um, just making making a different type of theater that isn't based on, opening up the first page of a play and having a linear sort of path. So felt very spontaneous, I think, as well,
Mm.
albeit planned out and everything. But good fun. Good
Cool.
fun. Yeah.
How is it having having the company members that you've been with them, some of them in Paris, some of them in Bologna,
Yeah.
and now they're in Ireland. Um, what was that like for you?
Very good. Now since the Europa project has come about, um, I think Sligo was the first workshop, so I was meeting people for the first time because there was new members.
Mm.
Um, so you're kind of trying to get to know people in a sense. Like for example, Théâtre du Soleil, um, they as opposed to the original CRE-ACTORS, they brought
Oh,
on two different actors.
I'm so sorry. I mean, with yeah, with the week in Dublin.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. So yeah, I'll just ask this last few questions just about the Creators project, just to wrap it up,
yeah.
and then we'll move on to Europa. But the yeah, just the because yeah, the feeling of, I think earlier you referred to being in these other countries and adapting to these new kinds of performance styles, these improvisational styles,
Mm,
which were different for you, and not only that, you're kind of in the midst of places where you don't really speak the language.
hmm
So going to a restaurant or finishing rehearsal, you're very much somewhere else. Whereas in Dublin in July in 2022, you know, you're kind of the, not maybe not the guide, but you are certainly more of the environment
hmm
than the other people would be.
hmm
And I guess, do you have any thoughts or feelings or response to that?
Not really, because whether it be Ireland, Paris, or Bologna, you're all there for the same reason. So I didn't really think about it. It didn't feel like, okay, I'm on home territory or anything. That's not where my mind was at. My mind was kind of, with the group on the work and bringing something into the space. Um, so it didn't really, because I was still staying away from my own home, I feel like, you know what I mean? And uh, traveling over to the space with Lucy and Michael every morning. So it was kind of on the work. You're there to work, in a sense
Yeah.
as well. Um, if
So
that kind of
Dublin,
yeah,
yeah. So Dublin, of course, not being home. It's not. It's home. Home is the West Country.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Was that? How was that experience for you being in Dublin?
fine. Like the days are long with the workshops, so
Yeah.
you're kind of getting up, working all day, and uh, really, I need my quiet time, my rest time after being in a room with 21 people. So I'd be happy to sort of go back to the apartment and just chill out for the evening.
Hmm.
Um, you need. I personally, anyways, I do. Because it's so many different languages, and when the the translations are sort of being done, it can become quite overwhelming. So because you've got someone translating, let's say, to your right into English and sort of to your left into Italian, and you kind of feel like going ah, you know. So I loved my quiet time in the evenings. and then just to replenish for the following day, because as I said, they're fairly intensive kind of weeks when we do them.
It
You know,
sounds like there were a lot of words.
yeah, yeah, but all very positive. You know, but it does take a little bit of getting used to. I'd be sort of not overly used of crowds kind of thing. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah, but all very good, but just needing feng shui relaxed time was just as important to me as well in the evenings to reflect
Uh,
on the day, etc.
yeah. Were you encouraged to keep diaries as you were working on these projects?
Yes. Well, we would kind of take notes of different kind of exercises and things like that. Uh, but then at the end of the week, we would have to give in a little journal, if that's the word for it, to Jonathan, who would keep record, of our personal kind of uh, commentaries on the week, because they needed to know how to maybe improve things as well. What were the positives? What were the not so positives? In order, because it was an evolving thing, how certain things maybe wouldn't work as well as other things. So they needed, as the main group kind of leaders. I know that's a bit of an official word, but how to, proper feedback is essential. Otherwise, stuff gets left unsaid and that kind of thing. So yes, we always had to do a report
Cool.
post the workshop.
And you're referring to Jonathan Meth, who was
Yeah,
the dramaturg.
yeah,
Yeah. Um,
one of the
cool.
dramaturgs.
One of, oh, great. Um, yeah. What was the um, okay? So we've gotten to July 2022, and then there's a break, and then Europa begins.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when did the Legend of Europa when was the first workshop?
I believe the first one was led by Michael here in Sligo uh, last year.
Cool. So 2025.
Yes, I think
Um,
so.
great.
Yeah.
How what's been the uh, brief for that? Like how what happened in the run up to that?
So it's the first leg of the project. So it was based around the rape of Europa. Um, so the first kind of leg in that Greek mythology, but exploring it in a contemporary way, not trying to do a Greek version of it, if you get me. So yeah, it was a great week. A lot of work done, a lot of material kind of produced in terms of potential for the main show, which hopefully will is down the road within the next couple of years. So Paris is next. Um, no, we've done the second leg in Bologna. So Michael was the first leg, second leg in Bologna, which was based around um, the the killing of the children. I don't have the specifics in my mind right now, and it'll go into Crete in July for with the French,
Okay.
and then the plan is to go to Stockholm, where it'll be sort of somewhat miraculously and thanks to all those guys who are with their capabilities, whatever form it'll be condensed. I don't
Hmm.
know whether it's going to be a 2 hour show, a 14 hour show, you know, 12 hour show, a 2 day show. It's hard to say at the moment, because the Michael's workshop here in Sligo produced a huge body of work, which is probably coming in at about 60 pages, um, which isn't finished, but you're looking at a few hours of stage work, if you get me, easily,
Mm.
easily, easily. Yeah.
So, how was that? Were there many company members from? It seems to follow a similar format to the CRE-ACTORS project, where there's sort of these intensives in different parts of the world.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I guess, yeah. What was it like to see those people again?
So as I said, some people were new to the original Creators group. Um, yeah, really good, really good. Because you start getting uh, to know how other people work. And but it's really kind of down to the director in terms of putting certain groups together in certain languages, like because there will be a lot of voiceover. So if
Hmm.
if and fingers X that it will ultimately become a show and tour. Then because of all the different languages, you have to cater for different countries. So if we were in France, it's maybe best for a French person to do the voiceover, of for a certain scene, or if we're in Ireland, for me to speak English, or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of work involved. It's a massive project. Um, I can't remember your original question.
That's okay. Does it still feel
Does it still feel
or does it feel less when you have the multiple translators in the room?
It, it, it certainly does take getting used to, and I think that goes for everybody.
Hmm.
Because um, a certain amount of time has to be allocated for that. And then if something is kind of skipped over and you haven't a clue what's been said in either Italian or French or whatever, you're kind of you don't quite know what's going on. So the whole sort of translating thing, everybody's getting better at integrating it within the process in which we're kind of working, you know?
Does it feel like things are getting, I don't know, like how you said that you feel like things are like there's a method or a technique that seems to be emerging. Is that fair to say? That something is like getting faster or more efficient
Yeah.
or what is that thing?
Well, I think it's because we now know precisely what it is we're going to be working on, if you get me. So Michael chose his first leg of the Rape of Europa, then the Italians. So it's very specific as opposed to willy nilly kind of um, trying different things out the first time around, if you get me. So
Yeah.
we know where it's leading to now, and so that makes things a lot clearer when you don't necessarily know the outcome of the week, but you know what it is you're somewhat aiming for, and you've got a good base in which to go from. You know, so in that sense, uh, it narrows it down a little bit in a good way. You know, for more possibility as well, because you sort of roughly know the the parameters in a sense as well. You know the story, so it does kind of make things somewhat easier. It's not all Dutch suddenly, because I knew nothing about. That's what I'm saying. Like the French the Greek mythology was possibly embedded into them in their education, but I guarantee in the west of Ireland there was no Greek mythology on my curriculum, so I had to kind of start from scratch. So that's a huge learning curve as well.
So learning the stories,
Mm,
the yeah,
yeah.
um, that's yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, so you've um, uh, yeah. So you went back to Bologna to Teatro, like I can't say the name.
Dell'Argine. Yeah.
Yeah, and how was it? How was it being back?
Yeah, really good. Hard work. As in the days were long. Like I was kind of exhausted.
Mm.
Um, as I said, there was a lot of ground to cover in terms of what Andrea and Mickey had kind of lined up to get their little middle section of the Europa um, achieved. So, and well achieved, you know?
Uh,
It's really good.
um, I guess, yeah. I guess before we stray too far from the idea of story, to kind of bring it back to Irishness a bit. Um, yeah. Do you ever get a sense of um, Irishness and story and myth and the work that you're doing with border crossings?
Yes.
I've just kind of thrown some very very general themes at you. I'm not asking about anything specific. I'm asking about a sense of something.
Yeah. But I think Michael actually knows more about Irish mythology than I do. Uh, he's very knowledgeable. So I had to kind of start looking certain things up, like the the symbolism of the bull, for example, in Irish mythology. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't know, so that was interesting as well. Because there's a certain sort of there's a certain amount that I would know about Irish mythology, but uh, there's a lot that I don't either. I mean, if I had a year, I'd sort of live on a desert island and research it. Do you know that kind of way? Um, so yeah, it's in me. It's in me.
What does the bull mean? What does the symbol of the bull mean? Oh no, I don't mean to quiz you. But yeah,
I
just
can't remember.
it's
I've
cool.
got too much ubu in my head. It's
Yes,
like,
so you're yeah, maybe that's a thing to kind of wrap on. What so you're in the midst of a show now,
yes,
and how yeah, how is that for you?
it's 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 uh it's a little bonkers piece. It's an excellent play, actually. I mean, when I read it first, I was like completely clueless. I couldn't figure out, you know, what in God's name was going on. But having been on our feet now for the last 3 weeks with it, uh, it's actually starting to make a lot of sense. So I think Jerry wrote a very clever play, which, considering it was like 1890 something or other, it is completely relevant to today. And I don't want to mention any names. Trump. Um,
Yeah.
it's got him, that type of person written all over it. But it is a comedy at the end of the day, so you can't take yourself too seriously. We work hard here in the company as well, and we've a fair bit of ground to cover with. We haven't got to the end of the play at all.
Mm.
We've got another 30 pages, I'd say, to put on its feet, but we've got another 3 weeks. So normally we get there with sweat and blood and tears in the end. So yeah,
Nice.
no, it's been a great experience working on it. Yeah.